Hysteria. So there are some index cards and some pens sort of floating around in these seated areas. You can distribute the index cards toward the back. These are for writing down any questions, comments, thoughts, or anything that you might have. We're going to have an open Q&A session toward the end of this panel.
Yeah, furry!
Yeah! So we're doing this thing in two parts. We have an informative presentation that I'm going to give you guys. Here's some more cards, just pass them around. And then we're going to have an open Q&A session. So we're going to start off first by introducing everybody. That's Phantom, Laminar, Vix, Salu, Plastic, Onyx! Using twins, and then Natsura. That's a Delphox, and you are... I actually don't remember your name, sorry. I haven't seen you enough. Anyways.
Actually, corrected,
You killed the microphone. Okay, anyways, I'm your host. I'm Corrals, or Carol, or Feral, whichever one.
He's a horse!
I'm a unicorn, actually.
And a little one.
Yeah. And because we're running low on time, I'm gonna have to shave off the introductions part, so we just dive right into it. So, let's start off by first talking about what furries are not. No, I don't need a microphone. So, furries, you may have heard about furries through some things like CSI, Vanity Fair, and TV Vanity Love, Savage Love, and, well, a lot of these are over-gross representations of some furry, weird stereotype or something like that. You could say fake news. And these media, I guess you could say, tend to always present furries in a sort of negative light where we are always perceived as some sort of sex fiend or something like that. But realistically, furries are a lot different than that. Furries are a lot more diverse in age, gender, nationality, orientations, originations, and such. It's a fandom composed of people who come from all walks of life, who have all sorts of different professions. We have people in the army, people in the military. I know a neurosurgeon who's a furry. That's crazy. And these people pay taxes, go to work, go to school, and they're very socially integrated. And most importantly, or at least what's more really interesting, is that they're charitable. This right here is a graph of the world's largest furry convention called Midwest Fur Fest up in Chicago.
What about Anthrocon?
Anthrocon is the second largest furry convention in the world.
Well, there you go.
MFF last year had about 8,500 attendees or something like that, so nearly 9,000 furries for a single convention, and they raised $85,000 for charity in just 1 year. So one single convention can raise 5 figures. So furries in one convention that takes place for just 1 weekend can raise $85,000 for charity. That's an insane amount of charitable giving. By the way, there's also this guy called Sonic Fox. You might know him from some places or something like that.
I know him.
Yeah, he's another furry. Continuing on from what furries are, in particular, furries are, and this is the formal definition of furries, furries are fans of anthropomorphic characters, which can be simplified and described most as just animals with human-like characteristics. And the term furry refers to the person who's a fan of them, but the term furry can also refer to somebody or a character that is this animal with human characteristics. So you can think of Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, literally any of these animals up here, they're all furries too. Stop touching me. What? Never mind. And in the fandom in particular, furries are extremely creative, and there are a lot of different ways that furries express themselves. And that is through art of all kinds, animations, music, writings, sculptures, even game developments. And in the furry too, there are specifically what you could say photographers, or photographers, whichever one, fursuit makers, fursuiters, and performers in particular. There are a lot of furry puns that exist. I'm not even going to get into all those puns. But realistically, at the end of the day, furries are really just like every other person, but they just have a slightly different hobby in these anthropomorphics. But they live life to their fullest in every possible way.
We know how to party! Yeah!
Get drunk.
A one-on-one panel wouldn't be complete without furry history, so I'm going to skip through this kind of fast because this is a little bit more boring, but you guys, it's interesting information.
Boring!
Don't touch it. So the furry fandom started primarily in the 80s as part of science fiction conventions, and then when the internet became really, really popular, it started migrating to the internet and then forming really big communities on there, especially on communities such as Furrymuck, Second Life, Fur Affinity, DeviantArt, LiveJournal even, and especially nowadays on Telegram and Twitter. And they all came together because they had this shared common interest in these anthropomorphic or cartoon animals. And as the fandom grew larger and larger, it became really attractive for like the media, and they started talking about the furries, but they always latched on to this really small section of the fur fandom. And that's why a lot of these articles that you may read about the furry fandom almost always involve sex. So you can see in like these two articles, the New York Post, which was written in 2016, and the Vanity Fair, which was written in 2001, 15-year time gap, they're still talking about furries as being this massive sexual thing. And there are videos, archives on YouTube about some really, I guess, trollish and negative things that have happened about the fur fandom. WAFB is a Baton Rouge, just like an hour away from here, news station that actually covered furries, but they covered them in a really, really negative light. And all of the negative perceptions and presentations of the fur fandom have really bled into people's opinions about them. And so you can start seeing comments such as these really toxic ones that I'm not even going to read, but you can read them yourself, that people actually have legitimately for furries. Get out of the way. It gets really bad sometimes. And it even gets so bad that like at the furry conventions, which started out in the 90s, some really newsworthy things really came up, such as this thing that happened over at Midwest Fur Fest, which I talked about before. There was a legit gas attack that happened in 2014. Like, yeah, it sent like 25 people to the hospital or something for chlorine poisoning. Wow, thank you. Jeez. Okay. Wow, we skipped through a lot. Okay. Other things that happened are, there's this cafe that's over in Anthrocon that hosted Pittsburgh, the second largest furry convention in the world, that was facing some harsh economic times. And the furries banded together to do a massive Kickstarter to keep the cafe open through the next year. So they raised $20,000 just for this cafe to pay rent for the year. And some other things that have happened. For some other things that have happened, the Syrian refugee crisis, when Syrian refugees came over to Canada, they actually came to the same hotel at the same time, at the same weekend as Vancouver, one of the, actually Canada's biggest furry convention. And you could actually, there were news articles of like the Syrian refugees interacting with the fursuiters, and it was really interesting and cute. That's not my water. So furries are everywhere. There are hundreds of thousands of them worldwide, and there are overlaps with furries in every other community, fandom, and such. You can see up here, and of course these are all fursuiters because they're honestly more interesting to look at than just regular furries, which kind of dress like some of the other furries in here. Like you can just look around, everybody looks pretty boring, honestly. So that's why I use mostly pictures of fursuiters. That's why I use mostly pictures of fursuiters, because they're more interesting to look at.
Don't discriminate!
I love all of you.
No fur shaming.
Yeah, a lot of people can't afford fursuits, but we're gonna get to
That's
that.
right.
So, like furries
We had a whole panel
are
on that
in
earlier.
freaking everything. They're in anime, Pokemon, My Little Pony, comics, sci-fi conventions, everywhere. And the furry fandom has gotten so big that there are actual university researchers and teams that are doing research into furries. And they do these researching and programs and projects like in person and online through surveys and such. And then they take all their research, analyze all of it, find different like patterns such as demographics or psychological things, and they like publish them in like posters, presentations. They even like have actually published an entire book solely on this. And these are two of the biggest, I guess you could say, projects that are happening right now. There's the Fur Science Project, which is led by University of Waterloo professors, and then Adjective Species, which is just a hobbyist thing, but they're still pretty reputable on the research that they do. So, furries and fursonas. Fursonas are original characters that are owned by a person. But instead of just being a basic original character that you may just use and get some art with or something like that, fursonas have a lot more significance to the person who has them.
That's me. That's you. That's me. Let's go.
Yeah, you're not in the right fursuit, but yeah, this is Skulls. That's her fursona on the bottom right area over
I
there.
made that.
And the fursonas can be used,
I made that today.
and people can make fursonas that are representative of themselves that they may use in online interactions with other furries or even other communities that aren't even furry at all. And the fursonas that they make can be pretty much anything that your brain can think of. They can be any size, species, gender, age, personality. And just to show like the growth of some...
Or you can be an orange.
Yeah, there are some furries who are plants. There are some furries who are plants. There are furries who are cockroaches. Like, you can do anything, really.
Or there are furries who are just orange boxes.
Yeah, this is an alien, so like, yeah, I don't even know. But like, over time, somebody who has their own persona could, I don't know, have a crazy change of heart or go on some life-changing event or experience or something like that and completely change their persona. Zambuca is a popular furry artist who's been around since like 2000, mid-2000s or something like that. And this is their persona that they evolved over the past like 10 years or something like that. So it's gone from a German Shepherd over to this African wild dog thing. And really, Zambuca just kind of decided to do this one day because that's what they wanted to do. So, yeah, crazy. So visual art is the most prominent way in which furries express themselves or their characters or anything like that. And they do it through commissions or other, like, I guess, artist-made commissions such as Your Character Here's or YCH's. And the difference between those is, for a commission, the client comes up to the artist and then says, hey, I have this vision, this idea with the character doing these poses and things. And then the artist is just like, okay, yeah, I'll draw that for you, and then they do the drawing. Versus in the Your Character Here, the artist comes up with the posing expression, the schemes, everything about the thing, and then they just auction off like a slot for the character that wants to be in that situation. And visual art can range from anything from digital to traditional art, and they can have sketches, line work, flat color, shading, and full detail, all four of which are shown here at the bottom in increasing complexity. And you can commission people in person or online. You can buy prints from them or one-off pieces. You can buy badges. Yeah. And there are some artists who make their entire living just from selling art. There are some furries who go around conventions and then just sell prints of all their stuff, and they can make a living off of it. And the cost of some of these pieces of art can range anywhere from just a few dollars, even less than $1, to multiple hundreds of dollars. If anyone has anything to input, does anyone have anything to say?
Yeah,
I love you too.
that wasn't what I was gonna say.
What were you gonna say?
Nickelback.
Okay. But you can see that toward the upper end of the art, I guess, spectrum and complexity, there are some really, really amazing pieces up here. Like the one in the top left up here in that bookshelf and library, sometimes you can make a commission that is based on the hour, so you pay the artist like maybe $80 an hour or something like that, and then say, hey, work on this piece for 6 hours, and then they turn out something like that. Yeah, some of these pieces can be $500+. There's one artist who is so popular that they do YCH commissions, like Your Character Here commissions, that sell
YCH stand for?
Your Character Here.
Okay.
And these commissions, or at least slots, can sell for thousands of dollars, each slot, in just one single piece. So, yeah.
Fursuit commission slot? Like.
We're getting into fursuits right now. It's crazy stuff.
So like, about art. So to put an example out there, how much like art costs. Normally I don't buy art. I just draw it myself. But one of my favorite artists opened up for commissions, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna jump on it. It costed $100. Holy balls.
Only
so art
$100.
is not cheap.
Then there are a lot of people
Only
like you
$100.
in
I
art.
mean, like, I spent like $180 on a piece before.
The most expensive art piece I have is like $180 also, but I also split it with another person, so yeah, it doesn't really matter. But now, we're going to talk about fursuits because those are the most visible part about the fandom. And if you ever hear furries, you're probably going to think of the fursuits. So fursuits exist on a spectrum of tunique or super realistic suits or styles, and they can range in any sort of completeness. Every person here except for that orange, or not orange, white and blue haired thing,
Whatever
these
that
are
thing
all
is.
full suit fursuits. That right over there is a partial. And the difference in all of these is just the degree of completeness. So you can have the entire bodysuit. Can you stop? The entire bodysuit, the head, the paws, the feet, the tail, and that would be like a full suit. But you can just go out with just sleeves, paws, feet, and the head and the tail, missing the bodysuit, and that would be a partial. You can get these in any degree of completeness, any type of style. And for the legs in particular, there's a difference between plantigrade and digitigrade legs. Digitigrade legs are padded to give the illusion that you walk on your feet. And so if you look at the curvature of the legs, it kind of goes forward and then back. And so it gives the illusion that this character here, Laminar Fox, is walking on his toes. And for cost, some of these fursuits, get out of the way, Lamb. Some of these fursuits can be really, really expensive and then range from like just $200, just a few 50 or dozens or something like that, to upwards of $15,000. So this thing on the far right is an auction for a custom commission with Made For You, one of the biggest, most popular fursuit makers out there.
One of the recent suits that sold was made by Mixed Candy. It sold for $17K.
Hey, thanks for stealing the thunder. That's exactly what freaking happened. This actually happened like just a week or two ago or something like that. Somebody paid $17,000. That's a down payment for a house for a single fursuit. That wasn't like a custom commission or anything. It was just like a character. Oh yeah, the average cost of fursuits is normally about $3,000 to $4,000, especially for popular ones. Like these two over here, like $3,000. This one is $4,000. So yeah, they can really range in cost. They can get really expensive really fast.
Hold on, I would like to point out that you do not need a fursuit to be a furry.
Oh yeah.
I would like to highly point that out. Most people think you need one, but that is absolutely not true. Like, if any of you, raise your hand if you're a furry here. If you're in a suit or not.
Oh
you're still a furry!
Wow. We can just set the panel right here. You guys know what
things without a fursuit on your own, just being a human.
Yeah, you can also make your fursuits.
I
You
want
can
paws
commission
and a
them.
tail, and that's it. Because the full thing seems like it's really like high. Definitely.
Oh
You
yeah.
need physical stamina because it's really like wearing a giant duvet jacket all over your
Right,
entire
that
body.
too. Not a lot of people are built for that.
See, I might be cute cuddly on the outside, but on the inside, I'm dying.
Oh my god. And you can see with the pictures up here, there's the toonie suits that are kind of scattered about, especially on the left. And then the two twins that are sitting right here in the top right. Actually taken out last year.
Yo, Via, you know what Abby called?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's not my name, is it?
Yeah, about specs, the whole furry thing. I had my persona before I even knew what a furry was for 11 years before I got my fursuit. And I love my fursuit to death, but it definitely doesn't mean that you're not a furry. And I didn't even know I was a furry 11 years ago. I was just this kid who liked this big white bunny looking thing. It just was an alien, so.
Stop. Jeez. So, so for some examples of realistic suits, there is the one in the upper middle and the one in the bottom right. You can tell that the detail of them is a lot more focused. They're usually marked by resin eyes, resin noses, resin teeth, and they usually involve a lot of airbrushing. So if you like run it through a washing machine or something like that, you could probably wash off some of the paint and you have to send it back to your maker to get it like re-airbrushed. Yeah, there are more realistic suits, like this snow leopard right here is another realistic suit, and you can compare and contrast that with the toonie suit immediately right next to him. Some of these fursuits I said, like, really expensive. The one in the bottom middle, he's called Sniper, he's a Dutch Angel Dragon, he sold for $12,000. So, yeah, they get really expensive. So continuing on, because furries express themselves creatively through a lot of other things. It's not just visual art and it's not just fursuits. There are physical things such as 3D models, plushies, and then some things like music. And up in the top is a screenshot of a Kickstarter campaign for Foxes and Peppers, who are probably the most prominent furry musicians out there. And this is a Kickstarter for them to go record their third album, I think, at Abbey Road Studios, which if you guys know anything about Abbey Road Studios, it's the same place that did the Beatles recordings, and it's really, really popular. And they actually reached their goal of like $10,000 or $12,000 within like 12 hours. And when I took the screenshot last Monday, they were sitting at $29,000 raised. Wow. So people are really into like the furry music scene, and if you actually give them a listen, it's really, really high quality stuff. And something that's also really big. Hi, Black Wolf.
Hi.
Yeah, this is
Hi, baby. After somebody finally came and put me down a little bit.
Hey, I had to start the panel. So yeah, and for performance, because something that's really big in the fur fandom are the raves, and they go, it's heavy, it's bumping. This is a crowd of like maybe 2,000 people at Anthrocon, the second largest furry convention.
We party!
They have laser lights, they have dense fog, intelligent moving heads. Their budget for this thing is like maybe $20,000, $30,000. So
Actually,
they really,
let me correct you, that's a little bit higher on that.
okay, maybe $30,000 for some of the
you're looking
budgets.
at about 40 to 50,000.
This man helps run a con.
Yeah, he runs.
I'll run a fur
Yeah.
con, so I kind of know the
I just want to like give a second. Can we clap for Black Wolf? He is like our veteran.
I consider part of the brain market.
He is also
Yeah.
admin of the Louisiana Furries.
Yes.
Shut up!
Yeah.
And some of the things that happen at these raves, I'd like to point out right down here where the tip of my finger is. That's a giant sriracha ball that's like this high. That's getting thrown through the crowd. And if you watch videos from Anthem 2018, where'd it go? Where did the sriracha go?
It's on the ground.
It's over there somewhere. But like, yeah, if you go back and watch some of the videos of the crowds, that people like the furries in suit and out of suit get really, really into the music, and they really have a good time. In addition to raves and other performance things, they have fursuit dance competitions, so people put on full fursuits or partials or something, and then go dance as part of a competition and contest, and then show off their moves. And some of these things can get really, really intense, where the lighting designers in the back and the lighting engineers. Yep, it's the orange on his head. It threw me off so much. The lighting designers get really into the music too. That is Laminar, yes. So, something that's really big about the Fur Fandom also are the meetups and the conventions. We already went through a little bit of the conventions, but for the meetups, for the Louisiana Furs anyways, we actually have weekly sushi meetups, which we're gonna go to in like an hour. And we have occasional really large monthly meetups that are like bowling. We went to the zoo one time, we went kayaking, laser tag, and at some of these events you can fursuit too. And I have to plug this, like all of these local meetups, because we're the Louisiana Furs, we're hosting this, and yeah, we have Louisiana Furs meetups. And furry
I'm trying to
communities.
pass it on to somebody else, I don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah, he's mainly the guy who organizes all of the events that we like go to.
What is sleep?
Exactly.
You'll give me 3 jobs. Normal job, furry kind of job, and then a local furry job.
Pretty much. And it actually requires like a lot of devotion and effort to. Oh, okay, thank you. It actually requires a lot of effort to like put on some of these really big meets. And the communities are worldwide. And for some states and cities that are really, really big, such as Texas, there are entire Telegram channels devoted solely to one city that have 600 something Dallas furries. And then like Houston has like 500 Houston furries. California also is massive with their furry communities.
Florida too.
Yeah, Florida too, Austin, Texas. And Telegram is a messaging app that pretty much all the furries use. It's like part of the furry starter pack, I guess you could say.
Our Louisiana Furs Telegram is currently sitting at 322 members.
322.
322 members.
Yeah. And so that's just our Louisiana
And
community.
growing!
Yeah. Some states like Wisconsin or Wyoming, they don't really have as much of a furry group because it's kind of farms. Yeah, neither does Mississippi. Alabama's a little bit more spaced out, but they still have like a mobile furs.
Actually, let me correct you about the Mississippi. They don't consider themselves Mississippi furs. They consider themselves the Gulf Coast furs.
What about New York and California?
New York does have
Huge communities.
Yeah, they do
Huge.
have one.
They're
But
huge.
they mostly New York and everything mostly goes for like the northern part.
Okay.
So they have different little chats in them, but they usually tend to do one big
Monthly
New England
meetup.
chat.
I'm laughing because he tells me that the Wyoming Furs in their official Telegram chat for the entire state has 28 members. It's so small. And so if you're a furry living out in Wyoming, yeah, there's like nowhere nearby. There's like no one nearby.
What about Nevada?
Nevada is pretty big, especially in Las
I've
Vegas.
got the answer to that. Hold on.
It's like
I thought Nevada was
He's
very...
moving to
204!
200. He's moving to Las Vegas. So.
Okay.
Las Vegas!
Oh, I get that.
Oh yeah, that's a big thing
land.
too. There's a big difference in terms of activity for some of these fur groups. Like we are really abnormal because we have meetups every week. Some other fur communities and chats may not have people who step up to do any of the organization, and so they may have only like 1 or 2 meetups a year. And yeah, it's kind of sad.
Yeah, but also with our chat, we have like, you know, the members of the chat, it's not only the admins that do plan the meetups, a lot of furs, like, you know, in the chat plan their own meetups, which all of the people go to. Yeah.
It's all about stepping up and actually organizing it for not just yourself, but the other furs who you consider to be some of your closest friends of your entire life.
You're not my friend anymore.
That's rude.
Okay, I love you again.
But yeah, like these 2 pictures that I have posted here have the same fursuiters as you may see here on stage because these are taken at some of our local meets.
Yeah, you
So,
can see my fursuit if I'm not wearing it,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the last one right there, that was from the last picnic meeting.
Yeah, we had a picnic meet. It was hot and it rained. But yeah, we still had some suitors who came out and suited and still had plenty of fun.
which was insane.
So we need to talk about this because a one-on-one panel is not complete without talking about YIF and YIF art. So YIF is technically, I guess, colloquially described as being a sound that a fox makes. But in the fur fandom, it more generally refers to really anything that is adult related. And that includes the art or even the fursuits, which are called fursuits. But, what?
What's going on?
And, I'm sorry, what? Never mind. And so the degrees to which these things can manifest themselves can range from anything that's just lightly seductive to a full-on pinup or even like full-on smut. But we're not going to talk about that because realistically, all of these are severely overblown because the furry fandom is really a lot bigger than that. There's a lot more to the furry fandom than just porn. And that's why I make it a very big point to all the people who I talk about, especially with the furry fandom. The furry fandom is not defined as a sexual thing despite all the art or the mersuits. In the same way that the bronies are not defined by all of their adult art called clop. And in the same way that anime is not defined by the hentai, the yaoi, the yuri, or its fascination with tentacles. You can go on and on about this, because the furries really are so much more. We are artists of all kinds.
Basically, you don't need sex to enjoy furry.
It's pretty much like every single fandom that you're in. Like, you know, all of those fandoms didn't start out through, like, you know, the sexual content. It started out, you know, through the interest that you share with, you know, considering anime, movies, things like that.
Exactly. And some of these conventions bring together all these people who have the same interests. That picture that I posted up there is taken from an artist alley at one of the conventions in which people go sit down at a table for like 8 or 9 hours and then people come by and buy art specifically from them right there on the spot. Yeah, that's from FWA.
Yeah, I actually did Artist Alley at FWA, and it is crazy. It's like, you have so many people that go up to you, you make so much money, like, selling
If you're
art
lucky.
there.
If you're lucky, that's
It's great.
And in addition to the actual artists, you have more content creators such as the photographers and the videographers. You have fursuit makers, fursuiters, YouTubers, gamers, meme lords, like, yeah.
Oh my god, ow.
And all in all, in the end, furries are really just human beings and people.
We're human beings. Not beings, we're beings.
Charity.
Yeah, we mentioned the charities. You came in a little bit late.
Well, whose fault is that?
Yours, because you got lost.
Oh, no. Okay, I gotta put this argument right now with them. Later.
We'll settle it after.
Later in
We'll
the
do it out in the
bathroom.
parking lot. So, to interact with
Selling
furries,
tickets for charity. Yeah.
That's gonna be an easy part. That's gonna be just slap them.
that's actually something that's really big too. At FurCons, there are some charities, some things that people do for charities, where they like buy tickets to like certain charity events, special charity shows, comedy shows, some individual events such as you can get somebody's head shaved in whatever pattern you want if you win like this auction to do this. And all the money and proceeds from that go directly to the charity.
We actually did 1 year for Apocalypse. If we raised up enough for charity, we iced all the chair people. I ran away before they got me.
You killed him?
Yes, no, we iced them.
Oh my god.
No, I said that's ice. I'm talking about ice and then we pushed them in the pool.
Okay,
I would
okay.
like to also mention, like, when I was at Anthrocon this past year, I went to a Foxamore and Pepper Coyote show, and they ended up raising over $2,500 in one show for an hour for a charity for an animal shelter.
Oh yeah! At another Fox and Pepper show, they actually had a little auction for an egg cooker that sold for $200.
Animals are what we exist.
An egg cooker, and they sold like a $5 egg cooker for $200.
I mean,
all $200 that went to
They were
charity.
auctioning off Pepper Coyote's stuff that he left behind at cons, and that sold like crazy. Like, it was hilarious.
Pepper coyote.
Like, people are really charitable in this fandom. So, to actually continue with the presentation, so
Sorry,
if
Mom.
you want to interact with furries, really, we're just human beings, so just come up and talk to us, have a chat or something like that. Unless it's a fursuiter. So if it's a fursuiter, just like any other cosplayer, please don't be creepy. Always ask for like a hug or hi. Get out of the
Never
frame.
shake a fursuiter ever, please.
Yeah.
or like touch their face, because some fursuiters do not like their faces touched due to having to always clean it, and it's always extremely difficult to clean the fursuit faces. Like, I can't tell you, like, Viet here has spent 2 hours cleaning his fursuit head by spot cleaning all like the dirt off of it.
It's a pain.
Or don't even sneak up behind them too.
Yeah, and like really, like all cosplayers, there's that term, cosplay is not consent. That applies for furries and fursuiters too. We are people also. We're not. Huh?
You can also break a fursuit by like even touching the fur the wrong way. If you mess it up, that fur is plastic. That is not replaceable. So like if you touch a fursuiter the wrong way, you hit them. Like this suit has been hit and the seams between his hair and his ear is busted. And he has to go back to his maker to get fixed. Just, if you're interacting with the fursuiter, just by all means, just be careful with them and, you know.
How would you feel if I pulled your tail?
Also, to make a big note, especially for digigrade fursuiters, be careful by touching their bellies, because that may not be the belly you'll be touching. You may be touching their crotch. Because some people have drop crotches like me. This suit has a drop crotch, so if you were to touch the belly, you'd be touching my no-no area, which is very awkward.
Oh
like,
my!
On the topic of like touching their heads too, some fursuiters have like resin bases for their heads. Like fursuit heads can be made of like foam or resin for like the base. And if you have resin right here, which is hard, like molded plastic, and you like hit them like or like pet them or something like that, you're sending that plastic right into their nose. So yeah, it gets really annoying.
How to kill a furry?
Oh my goodness, you're back. You made it.
So yeah, here is I think.
No, that's
No.
This is my offering.
We're now reaching the end of the presentation. I gave you guys like flashcards or those index cards to write down anything that you want. I don't think anyone wrote them down, so don't.
Alright, you're asking people to do something. Just come in here to sit down, listen to us. I think we're all cool.
Yeah, listen to me talk for 50 minutes. That's so engaging, isn't it?
I'm bored.
How about we
Ask us some questions.
Yeah, ask us questions. Completely open floor. Absolutely nothing is off limits. What's up?
Hey. So I know this was touched on in the presentation. It's probably something that people in the fandom are kind of tired of hearing. But how is the negative connotation of furry as a fetish as opposed to a fandom affected you in your fandom as opposed to just enjoying it?
It's bad. We've had like times where we've gone to Comic-Con and stuff, and we had parents literally yank their kids away from us, saying, "Get away from the sexual deviants."
True story.
When I go out in public in general, or someone asks me what my hobbies are, I don't ever publicly come out as a furry or anything like that, because it's just not a subject that I think that really needs to be touched on with strangers or anything like that.
I agree.
I mean, if you come up to a person and then start talking about their fetishes, like, you see something wrong with that?
I had someone in one of my college classes that you meet, like, the first day of class, went up, "Hey, are there any furries in here? Are there any furries in here?" And I was just kind of like, "Oh no, honey. What are you doing? No."
Oh no.
It was very frowned upon and sad. And like I took him, after class, I was like, "Hey, like a lot of people aren't accepting." And he didn't know, but I helped console him. I told him I was, and that just, I don't know. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but at the same time, I don't ever really come out in public with it.
It's just being cautious because you can't
Yeah.
tell, you can't feel the crowd and
There are
what
people
the
that
reaction
purposely
is.
attack furries, and they aren't educated to what we are, and so it's better to educate them. I don't know, put yourself in harm. Okay.
I would just rather have a lot of internet friends as furries, No, so then that way, like, instead of having, like, you come out and tell people and then like, being, like, frowned upon in some way, just better keep it under wraps,
I know, man.
What's up?
Well, no, it's all good conversation because what I was going on is I'm personally not in the furry fandom, so it's all kind of like, in general, I feel like outside of the fandom, it's definitely got a negative connotation as a fetish instead of a fandom.
Yeah.
Which seems to, just generally not be the case.
And that's exactly why we address it in here, because if you talk to any of us, we'll tell you like straight up how it is, and it's just overblown. That's what it is. What's up? I thought there was another question over here somewhere in this section. No? Alright. What's up?
I had one.
Oh my gosh.
Alright, go ahead.
Should I just ask?
Sure.
So for people that are just now getting sort of exposed to this, what are some of the better ways to like approach the community, ease into it and everything?
Don't look at the negative side. There's a lot of it. You're gonna run into drama. Just have fun with it. That's all I'm gonna say, really.
Really, just keep an open mind.
There are a lot.
Open to mind, like self-discovery, really. You might find some of your best friends in the fur fandom, and so one of the biggest things about the fur fandom is that it's a social thing and it's a social community. And so if you're just starting to get into it, you can start getting engaged with some of these communities, make your persona, maybe think about your persona, and then just start talking with people, meeting people. That's really what it is. Like, I know people all around the entire world because of furry.
You know, just start creating characters. You don't need to have you don't need to roleplay every character, but you know, it's sort of like just creating a story. I mean, I'm not an artist, but I mean, I drew my character first, and then, you know, I started sharing the character, and, you know, started becoming established. And
Pretty much to sum up the way furry tends to be, it starts off, you start having friends because you all have a mutual understanding of hobby and everything else. And then as the bond starts growing between everybody, it starts turning from a friend to a family, because pretty much everybody will have you back for anything. If you're having a bad day, somebody will be there for you. You just say, hey, I'm having a worse day. You may have one person message, you may have 3 people message you. They're always there for you.
I like 100% agree with what Black was saying, because like Mechacon actually this year marks like a year that I've been active locally in Louisiana furs. Like last year I came here and went to the fur meet, and now a year later I have all of this family. I have people who came to support, and all of my dreams have basically come true. Like, I love all of you guys.
And look, you're even running a panel.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right?
Oh yeah, that is honest. He is technically one of the hosts of this panel, but he can't really give a presentation like that, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm hot. I don't.
So we all got recruited.
What's up?
Yeah.
What you got?
Speaking of somebody being attacked, there was this griffin fursuiter, and she had a resin, and she had just got her suit, and it was her first convention going with it. Somebody punched her in the face on the elevator and broke her beak in half. Like,
There's some really toxic people out there. Furries too. Like, the furries are really subjected to all the bad things as literally every other community out there. You could just talk to like
And with that,
Star Trek people, and you got like sexual assaulters. Crazy.
yeah, like, and with
They're
that,
bad apples
like, usually whenever some people, like, you know, get damaged to their fursuit, like, you know, the incident you just told, and usually when they come out to like, you know, the whole entire fandom, there's like fursuit makers that will come out and be like, oh, we'll fix this for you kind of thing, and they'll help you out. It's not like, oh, this is completely ruined forever. They're like, everybody's always has your back.
I actually have one story I can share about with the whole fan of how to be with the family.
We gotta keep on taking questions. What's up?
when did y'all first fully dive into the fandom?
Just start saying a number, start from there, move over here.
Oh, okay.
Like
13.
What?
13. I was 13.
Okay, age 13.
Ow, hey, I have to take that out of my
Stop
mouth.
chewing on it.
Age 15. So like 5 years ago.
Really this
There's still
It's hard
time.
to say a number. Come on, keep it moving.
4 years
We got
ago.
time here. Let's go.
How old are you in reference?
19.
Look, just say it this way. How many years you've been in the fandom?
8.
Put it that way.
I've been in the fandom for 2 years. I got into it when I was age 21.
Keeping it moving?
About 4 years now.
He's eating it.
I've been in the fandom since I was like 13, so about like, well, 8 years-ish.
About 12. I got into it when I was like really young. I'm 21 now, so yeah.
12 years.
What about you?
That's 2. Just 2.
You really?
And what about you?
Do you really want to know?
Yeah.
He's been in this thing for like 20 years. He's a
Come on,
great
give us a
muscle.
number!
Give me a number?
Give us a number!
All right, I'll give you the year. 98.
4 years.
And I'm going to be 34.
20 years. Hey, handsome.
I've been here for 6 years, and I started when I was 24. So you don't need to be young to enjoy
Right.
furries as well.
The actual demographics of the fur fandom, the majority of furries are in their 20s, but there's a huge wave of furries coming in who are less than 20, like
Right.
especially 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Because this is when they start getting on the community and they start looking around and then finding these communities. kind of spotted and dotted around in like different, I wouldn't say pockets, but
Hey, Zootopia.
less popular areas. And yeah, there's some things that get furries, or rather, there's some people that get people massively into like the fur fandom, such as Zootopia, Lion King, Disney movies. I got into fursuits, or I got into the furry fandom by fursuits, but that's just me. Like, you can get into furries by a lot of things. What's up?
So, what's the kind of like process? I don't know if there's a process, but like coming up with a persona. Like, what's your like take on that?
Whatever you want.
Actually, it's simple. Like, you either come up with your own species or you come up with your own design. You feel what you feel is creative. You can, you know, just go with it.
Don't steal other people's designs.
The way that I would suggest it is make a character that you would be comfortable portraying yourself as in an internet community. Like if you're going on to like some of the furry message boards or communities and you need like an avatar, do you view yourself as a wolf, as a fox, a cat, I don't know, dragon, cockroach? I'm not trying to say that to be mean, but I'm just giving you suggestions.
I never heard of cockroach.
Yeah, there's all sorts of art that you can get to like get your pursuit and ideas.
Speaking of Zootopia, how did Zootopia affect the fur community? Because I know that, like...
Massively popular.
There was busloads going to the movie theaters.
There were
I'm actually joking.
You were time viewing parties. Anyone else? Questions? What's up?
Around 2015.
How are the race relations within the furry community?
I'm black. Me too.
I'm Asian. Like it's all races, all ethnicities.
It's actually all over the world.
Yeah, it's worldwide. There's a convention in South Africa.
Brazil?
Yeah, Brazil.
Convention in
Mexico.
South Africa.
There's the Japan.
Yeah, Japan. They're everywhere. Indonesia, Thailand. Yeah.
We've invaded the
Furries are everywhere.
world.
What's up, Fursuiter? You've been neglected. I'm sorry. What's up?
How would y'all like, I guess, deal with them in cases where like you have a character or something and someone has stolen that design? Exactly.
Any artists want to
I deal
answer
with
that?
that a lot because I'm an artist and I make character design for a living.
But how would you deal with it? That was the question.
Personally, I deal with it with the customer that has either purchased design for me or like I've never had anyone try to steal plastic, so that's not a big problem. I normally confront in a very, very friendly manner. I have my proof, I have my dates of my character, when it was drawn, I have it all in, you know, all my file statistics and stuff like that. And so normally I'm able to very, very carefully, I guess, and very formally sort it out. But in some cases, people are really stubborn. They don't want to do anything if they won't work with you. And that's where you get into the big, beautiful bewares. And that is honestly a big pain in the butt. And unfortunately, it's necessary in some cases, but it happens.
We got someone over here who wants to talk.
Actually, like, there's are cases where people will get their characters actually copyrighted, and if you do copy that character or claim it as your own, you will get, like, a hefty fine.
You can take it to court.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, you could take it to court if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Who really want to go to court for
But yeah, but you would really want to go do it that time.
You gotta be careful about how you deal with situations here because sometimes it could be a kid not knowing.
Right. That's actually a huge problem.
Oh, yeah.
And like with fursuits and commissions, because there have been like 16-year-olds that tried to use their parents' credit card to commission a fursuit. Yeah. Yeah, it gets
I have a
messy
fun story
sometimes.
about that. My ex-friend stole her mom's credit card and bought a $3,000 fursuit, did a chargeback, and put the artist $3,000 in debt.
Oh.
Not fun.
Steal your parents' credit cards.
That's the first time I've heard that type of story.
But if you have someone steal your character or something like that, you just gotta... What? Oh yeah, most makers now, because of that $3,000 thing, that's happened more than once, believe it or not. Kids don't understand the concept of money, and they don't understand like the value of these things as well. So they don't know what they're doing. So a lot of makers now are requiring that you be 18 plus and show your legal like state ID to get a fursuit, to even commission or anything. I think some artists are doing that with art too. Now that I think about it, but yeah.
Any more questions? What's up?
Okay, those of you who have pets, have you found your pet, whatever it is, find a weird fascination with your persona?
I have a Shiba Inu, and she's an absolute monster, and she thinks I am death, doom, and despair. And she goes screaming down the hallway at me every time I bring out his head. And I also have chickens and ducks, and they do not like me at all. They like to hiss. They hiss like geese. So yeah, they're not a big fan. They won't really come close, but she will scream at me until I take the head off and put it off somewhere.
Does that come with the territory of being an alien? I mean, no.
Oh yeah, that. Actually, my persona plastic is based off of my Papillon, who actually was recently stolen from me. He was my ESA for 11 years, and this is my persona, and he was based off of my dog, who was very, very meaningful to me. And I haven't worn plastic really since I lost him.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that.
That's another way that pets, I think, have really influenced my my liking for furry too.
That's something that's also really worth highlighting too. A lot of these people's personas are really, really special to them.
Right.
And so like they will keep their personas for like decades sometimes. Just make new fursuits or something like that. But they very closely identify with their personas. A lot of times.
Okay,
what's up? You got something to say?
I do, but waiting for him to go first.
Next, go ahead.
So this guy right here, I have had him since like I joined the fandom. I had like a white wolf thing at first, and then I switched over to him, and he was like a timber wolf or some stupid thing at first. He is now a dragon crux, which a crux is a Furry Fandom created character. They're just like canines with curly ears, crazy patterns, and like curly tails and stuff. But he's developed over my entire like existence of being a furry, so he's gone through some stuff too. As for how my pets affect me, I currently have a hamster, and he loves Onyx. This is Onyx, by the way. It's my persona. But my friend Onyx is wearing Onyx. So, yeah.
What does it mean?
My hamster loves like Onyx's glasses that he usually wears, like to take them off his face. So that's one thing. And another thing is, it's very similar. I had a dog named Cassie, and actually, I lost the dog. And so Onyx, most of his patterns, like his heterochromia and his white patterns, are based off of it. So, yeah.
So, any more questions? What's up?
Okay, so for the very small section of furries that, for the furries that do have section suits, how does that work? Like, they're not.
Let me first put it by saying, if you're gonna spend thousands of dollars on a costume and then go at it, that's your prerogative. But they
keep them in private. They don't go out with them.
We gotta wrap this up because I've just been notified that we gotta clear out for the next panel that's coming. We're gonna be running around the convention. You can approach us, talk with us, chat with us, anything. That's a good. That is a good question. So much for coming.
I feel bad having sex in like a dollar condo, so I can't even imagine a